Right, we're back in the garage and we've got a problem with the TR3. Recently when driving it, it just seems to lose all power and it feels like the timing is just suddenly disappearing. And this started happening not long after I did a conversion to the distributor to put in electronic ignition. And I think that is the culprit here. So I bit the bullet. I bought a new distributor with electronic ignition already in it, because I think the old unit's a little worn as well. And we're going to swap it out, which should be relatively straightforward. So here's the problem. If we just take off these clips to get the distributor cap off, if you look at this, there's so much play in it, and the rotor doesn't fit properly in there, and then this cap slides over the actual rotor, and that has a magnet inside it, and that's a Hall effect sensor. But see, there's play on there, that's going to move. There's play on the shaft a little bit, but there's a ton of play on this. So I have a feeling that that is what's causing my problem. I hope that's what's causing my problem. If it isn't that, I have a bigger problem. So anyway, we're going to take this unit out, and I have a replacement unit here, and I've just realized my first problem. This is a different fit to the one that's on there. So I'm going to have to sort that out with some rubber tubing. Let's take this distributor out. We'll put the new one in. I've already set the engine to top dead center, and you do that with a 15th, 16th socket on the crank, and this was pointing towards the plug number 1 on the distributor cap. You notice I'm not undoing the wires. Now, when you fit one of these, the wiring is a little bit different to what was originally in the car, but because I already did this conversion, all I got to do is take this black and white wire off here, this black wire off here, this one has the same thing, and in theory I can just hook it up like that and everything will work, in theory. First of all, with a 3/8 wrench, let's take off the vacuum, and then that should just pull out. Now, as I said, on the new unit, that fits in just like with a rubber hose, and I'm going to have to find some rubber hose to do that. I've probably got some lying around somewhere. Anyway, that's undone. Then we have to undo that bolt there. So this bolt here is a 7/16, so we'll undo that. I'd already loosened it up earlier, I will admit. So with those two loosened, we should just be able to slide the distributor out, and there you have it. I'm wondering how worn that bad boy is. So let's undo these wires here, remembering black and white, black, and right, so that's the old one removed, and we will hold on to that just in case. So we have the new one, and let's take the cap off for a second. So here's the new unit, and you can see it's actually very similar to what we had before. We've got a rotor, we've got a magnet and a Hall effect sensor, and you get a little bit of play, and that's just for the centrifugal advance. So that is good. Now, what we have to do is put that in the right way around, and so we had the rotor pointing up. So that should slide in there, but that's not going to be very good like that, is it? So we can actually rotate this however we want it, as long as when we put the cap on, we want to make sure when we put all the wires in that this is pointing to number 1. There we go. So we make sure that's in place, and now that is seated. And we can turn this unit however we want. We just got to make sure that it's going to be reasonably close to where we were. So if we put that in place like that, this is number 1. And these wires will connect up over here, and then I'll need to connect up that. So what we do is we make the 2 electrical connections here and here. This is my old ignition wire, and this is the negative terminal on the coil, and the coil I had uprated when I did the update before. We plug in our wires, and that's that. So I'm just going to put the plugs on this, and then we'll come back. It's all right, everything's wired in now. I'm not a huge fan of these crimp connectors, but I'd much rather solder them, which I'll probably do afterwards, but it was really just to make sure that this thing works. So you set it while the engine is at top dead center, you set it approximately so that the rotor is pointing at number 1 sparking plug, and then hopefully it fires, and then you can adjust it just by turning. Let's see, this doesn't have the micro adjuster that the original distributor has, but what I will do is set it at 4 degrees before top dead center, because that is what's required on these, and I'll do that using my trusty timing gun. So hopefully this thing will start. Magic! And if we turn this, you can hear the engine note gets worse, and then it gets faster, and then it will get worse again if you keep turning it. But I think if we leave it just about there, and then what we do, so that's good enough for an approximate setup, but now I'm going to use my trusty timing gun. So what you do is you put this clamp here around spark plug lead number 1, which is this one here. I routed it underneath, just so it was out of the way a bit, right? And then we connect the gun up to a positive and a negative source. This car, being an old British car, is positive earth, and then we will just connect this to the negative terminal, and my gun is there. And this is where it gets tricky, because there's a mark on the crank pulley, so I have to be able to see that and make sure that when we're at 4 degrees that that's in the right place. So it's a little bit difficult to do with one person, because I've got to be in 2 places at once, and I don't think I can see it from this side. Or maybe I can. Let's have a go from this side. So let's start this thing up again, see if we can get 4 degrees in advance. That was easy. It was spot on right away. So if you can see the timing mark stationary where it should be at top dead center, that means that your timing's right, and we are exactly at 4 degrees. Perfect. Well, that was lucky. It was spot on 4 degrees. So now all we've got to do is tighten up the distributor and find a way of connecting the vacuum advance, and we are good. So there we are, all done. Now, I will admit, when I went to put the distributor in, I've always adjusted the distributor using the clamp bolt down here, but that's not the way you're supposed to do it. You're supposed to get it in place and then do any minor adjustment with the 2 bolts on top here. And what I found when I put the distributor in, because that clamp had closed up a little bit, the distributor wasn't sitting all the way in. So I had to take it all apart, had to take the clamp off, open it up, put it back on. And from now on, I'll be adjusting it using the 2 bolts. You just loosen off the bolt on either side, and that gives you just a little bit of adjustment in the unit. But it's all set now, 4 degrees before top dead center. I'm going to go out and try it and see how it works, then I'll clear up the wiring around here. And I cut a little piece of the tubing off this end for the vacuum advance so that I can just connect this in there, just like that. Whoops. And there you go. Really not very tidy. I've got to tidy up that piece of tubing. Right, so everything's tightened up. I've got my trusty co-pilot here who doesn't seem too sure about this, and we're just going to drive around the neighborhood and see if the car works okay. Starts up okay, Tasha. Stay there. Good dog. Tight getting out of this garage because I've got a retaining wall right in the way, but with the small cars it's fine. You okay, Tasha? You okay there? You can lie down, you know, if you want. Go down the hill, shall we? So that really was a swap of like for like. It was just, I don't think the conversion of the old distributor really worked very well. I think it was a little worn. And because there was so much play in it, you just lost the timing occasionally. And you could actually go in and fiddle with the rotor, and then it would be okay for a while, and then it would go again. But it was just a feeling of absolutely no power whatsoever in the car. You okay? She doesn't like open top cars very much. I think this is job done. It feels great. Mind you, it felt great before. And it kept not working properly. I think a part of the problem may have been that distributor clamp not holding the distributor in place properly, because it had kind of tightened up over the years, and the distributor wasn't sitting all the way down in the clamp. So that may have been causing some of the problems as well. I think there were multiple problems. This car has electric overdrive as well, which is nice. It's an extra few gears in between gears. Sulking, or are you enjoying yourself? Most dogs would love this, you know, because they sniff all they like, but she is not a fan of all this air going over. You poor thing. I'm going to make sure she doesn't jump out. You're not a happy bunny. So I think this car, for the moment, is fixed and can go back into the rotation. What do you think, Tasha? It's still got wonky steering, but that needs fixing. Normally I wouldn't take her out like this, but this is a private neighbourhood, private roads. I don't think we'd go out on the main roads like this. So you can hear under load the engine is just starting to ping, which is actually where you want it to be. Probably need to retard the timing just a little bit, particularly as it gets hot. You have to get pre-ignition on this car. That's a small adjustment. We'll make a small adjustment to it. Maybe go back half a degree, go to 3.5 degrees. Happy? That's that. We hope you found this useful, that you enjoyed it. If you did, give us a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe and leave your comments below. So until the next time, from the both of us, cheers.